Throughout the European minor and third place play-in, North had 3 chances to make the major, and during this trio of series, the Danes only won a single map and conceded 6. Today we'll be exploring just what went wrong for North in their final chance to reach the Katowice major versus ViCi Gaming. To kick off with, the first map of the series was Dust 2, which North picked into, and we'll begin by watching a sloppy round coming out from the Danes. So after doing a fairly standard default at the start of the round for some short control, you can see that North are grouping up towards the mid and short areas, and watching with Valde, we can see that North throw the CT smoke and a corner smoke, then Valde is going to get flashed out and work out into that middle area solo, and he's going to end up sitting in the CT smoke and waiting for the other 4 players to make their move. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is grouping up on Cat, ready to execute onto the A side, but Valde will go down and North decide not to commit and instead choose to fall back, and here Zoking, who pushed into a forward position, is going to punish them by trading 1-for-1, but most importantly getting all the information about what North are doing, and this is essentially going to be a round over for the Danes. So how did this round fall apart from North? The first problem was that with Valde lurking in the CT smoke, he needs those Cat players to execute out quickly so that the pressure is taken away from him and he can lurk through that smoke and kill the CT player. But North here, they took too long and the smoke faded, which led to Valde's death. Now the other thing was the call not to commit onto that A bomb site. So from ViCi's perspective, they've seen all those nades in mid and coming out of Cat, so they can suppose that most of North were in those areas of the map, but they decided to push the other areas and take some map control away from North, which meant that when North wanted to fall back off Cat, the ViCi players had already pushed into stronger positions, and it was very unlikely that North was going to make it all the way back and onto that B bomb site. Jumping into the following round, we're going to see how spreading out too much and having too many moving parts can be to your detriment. So earlier in this round, North had Cadian working a pick from B tunnels, before again having Cadian trying to work a pick into the CT area with that AWP. And at this point in the round, North have 3 players in mid, 1 Cat and 1 in B tunnels. Next up, North throw the 2 mid to B smokes. Gade is flashed around the corner, works along a little, but goes down to Zoking, swinging doors, and just after this, Kiebi, who likely wanted to Cat drop behind that CT player, goes down to Kays, who had regressed short, and now in a 3 versus 5, this round is essentially over for the Danes. The problem I have with this round is, where is the team play from North? Why is Gade working out mid and up ramp on his own, and for some reason AZ is just sat in the doors holding the long push, so there's no trade potential with Gade, and he goes down for nothing. Now I'm not sure if North wanted to fake out a B split into doing something else, but they're just biting off more than they can chew here, with wanting to have so much map control but sacrificing that trade potential. Just simplify it, group better, and try to trade onto those CTs, and against a team like ViCi, who loves to re-swing and retake on angles, they can catch you off guard if you're not playing together. During this terraced half, North made some small mistakes which cost them dearly. So in this clip, we can see that North goes for an explosive B hit out of tunnels, which is something they'd already ran before in this half. So after getting the entry, a missed door smoke from Cadian allows Kays to get 3 kills as they cross to the site. AZ had a smoke here and could have re-smoked door, but everything was too hectic at that point and they lost the round. Again on round 13, I've got no idea how Freeman was allowed to get 3 kills just re-swinging from window as North tried to split onto B, and earlier in the round they also missed an Xbox smoke. Now mistakes certainly happen in professional level Counter-Strike, but add these to the earlier clips and I think it's safe to say that North haven't ironed everything out on the terrorist side of Dust. Let's talk about an overarching concept within this half, and this is all about terrorist long control. Now ViCi like to gamble 4 players over to A early to help ensure CT long control, and I wonder if, knowing this, that North were reluctant to call fast long takes. So after watching ViCi's standard method of taking long control, I do think there are viable ways to fast take long against it, and on round 12, North made a really great call to go for some fast long control where they sent Kiebi running anti-flash into pit. Now going for fast long control is always a bit of a mess, but it worked out for North on this round as it gave them loads of map control and a couple of entry kills. But outside of just fast taking long, going for long control mid-round with those two smokes can work out great and make splitting onto the A-bomb site very hard to spot. And just to say, it's not like ViCi were particularly exploiting North's lack of long pressure, it's just that I think taking long works well on the terrace side of Dust, and North weren't particularly doing that very much during this half. Anyway, let's move on to the counter-terrorist side for North. So to kick off this half, they won the pistol, lost the first gun round, but reset the T's instantly, and at this point, North have a strong enough economy to double AWP and they're starting to look in control of this match, but this is the round where everything starts to unravel. Now I've watched this back a few times and I don't think there was anything particularly wrong with North's setup here, but as we can see, North are not trading well onto these terrorist players and they're ultimately going to lose this round. So I think North falling flat here was a combination of multiple individual and mechanical mistakes plus some nice shots from those ViCi players, but in terms of the economy game, this was a disaster for North as they have to invest basically everything they have during the next round, and if they lose another, they'll be forced to eco. Keeping on the theme of North's economy, in the round after their anti-eco balls up, the Danes would lose another due to a poor retake where Gade got pinched on the site and the players coming from short didn't fare much better. So after taking an eco, we are now at 12 to 13 and North's buy is not fantastic as they have no AWP, no mollies and just a single kit. Now on the CT side of some maps this wouldn't be awful, Cash perhaps comes to mind, but on Dust 2 the default setup for almost every team is the double AWP as you have few risk averse options for contesting map control. So on this round, North are going to play basically a default setup on 5 rifles and imperfect nades, with Kiebi playing Goose, the only slightly unusual aspect. Next up, the call from ViCi is come out of short on some flashes, molly the ramp area, and they're going to kill both the CTs, only losing one themselves. And a little after, Kaze kills Valde and seals the round for ViCi. Now you could certainly argue that North should have traded at least evenly in this setup, but best case scenario was something like a 3 versus 3 retake, which would still favour ViCi. This is the thing with playing counter-terrorist Dust 2. If you're on a low buy, I feel like you have to take some decent risks in terms of the setup, then save into the next with 3 to 4 players and have full nades. Playing 4A with a player boosted in CT, a bait setup in mid with somebody close door, Noah Tower, playing 3B late and giving the A site are just a few possibilities that could have been used by North during this round. Also, I wouldn't have been opposed to North taking another eco, so that on the following round they could get back to double AWPs, which is what they looked most comfortable on. Moving on to the following round, we can see that North has a difficult choice about whether to buy or not. So in their shoes, I would have likely called to save and give ViCi match point, but I can certainly see why North would choose to buy in this scenario. Again, we're going to get back to the point about taking a risk with the setup, and here North are doing something a little bit different with Kiebi ready to contest short control, with the idea being that after hearing ViCi around the corner, Kiebi will swing out on a flash and hopefully get some kills. As a side point, if you've ever wondered why some top teams like to molly this area, it's precisely to prevent plays like this, and that's exactly what ViCi does here. So on this round, ViCi end up going for an explosive, almost contact play out of tunnels onto B, Gade gets straight entry'd, and perhaps AZ should have been playing double sight here to mitigate the risks of a tunnels hit. After losing this round, this is basically the nail in the coffin for North on Dust 2, and I'll also give a shout out to a video from Sean Gares on how Liquid's approach to the economy lost them a sizable lead on Dust 2 during the ESL 1 New York final in a very similar fashion to how North kept forcing out buys in fairly standard setups during this game. Alright, I think that's enough for Dust 2. Let's move on to the second map, plus ViCi's pick of Inferno, and spoiler alert, North, who started on the CT side, finished the half 11-4 and most impressively only lost a single round from the pistol and 2 conversions onwards. As this video is looking into what went wrong for North, for the most part we'll gloss over the majority of their CT side on Inferno, but there are still a couple of things that I would like to expand on. The first of these is on round 5, and as we can see, North is playing Cadian solo on the B site, and 4 players are on A with 2 in boiler, 1 under porch, and Kievi is top porch playing anti-flash. And the idea behind the setup is to contest apps control and or brackets control. On this round, North get the entry in boiler, but the strange part to me is the call to stay in a double porch setup with the man advantage. I feel like you should either have 3 players contesting that brackets control, or you should fall back to the site and play more passive. So here, North gets incredibly unlucky as Kievi goes down to a player jiggling out of boiler, but irrespective of how this played out, I'm not totally on board with the decision to stay in this setup. Another topic I wanted to briefly discuss is North's CT banana control. During this half versus buy rounds, North only took banana control once during the early round, and that was made 100 times easier because on that round, ViCi was going for some fast brackets control into an A hit, so they were not contesting banana at all. There were certainly a few rounds where North committed players and nades to go for the control, but backed off when ViCi started to smoke on the mollies and hard contest the take. Now I won't go super in depth with what North could try changing on banana because we'd be here all day, but perhaps North could explore some more aggressive or even delayed approaches towards taking banana to have perhaps a better chance of securing the control. Another thing to point out is that in multiple rounds across this half, North gave up the opening kill, but ViCi were unable to convert their advantages, and because of this, I think this half could have quite easily been an 8-7, 7-8, or even a 6-9 sort of scoreline from North's perspective. Finally, let's get into a disappointing terrorist half of Inferno from North, and in this first clip we're going to have a quick look at another example from the Danes lacking some team play, which is very reminiscent of what we saw on Dust 2. Watching on board with Valde, we can see that he is solo clearing apps, and the next closest player to him in Kievi is nowhere near, and as Valde clears long haul, he goes down to play it in boiler, and there is nobody around from North to find the trade kill. Now I believe that Gade is the player that normally defaults with Valde into apps, and on this round I'm not sure why he wasn't in balcony, helping him out to more safely take the apps control. Next up, we're going to see an example of hesitation coming out from North, and we'll see just how disastrous this can be. So earlier in the round, Cadian went down to K's AWPing down mid, so now we're in a 4 versus 5, and watching from Kievi's perspective, we can see that he finds a really nice entry kill onto that B site. Let's pause here and take stock. So what North knows right now is that ViCi very likely only has a single player on that B bomb site, and there is an opportunity here to aggress behind the entry and try to force out a 2 versus 1 versus the site's anchor, which even if they only trade 1 for 1 would be a very favourable situation for North. What happens next is that Advent drops this smoke and North hesitates about what to do. Anyway, the call comes in and they decide to flash through the close smoke, and with no CT smoke having bloomed yet, AZ and Kievi don't stand much of a chance. From my perspective, North had 2 choices if they wanted to force out a B hit here. Either AZ and Kievi go straight through that smoke and try and force out a 2 versus 1, or they wait for the other 2 players to catch up and they commit everyone through the smoke at once. So what happened in this round was a bit in the middle. They didn't go fast enough to beat out the rotator, and nor did they go through the smoke and onto the site well grouped with heavy numbers, not to mention that the CT smoke here was very late, which I can only assume was a communication mistake. Jumping forward a few rounds, North found some traction and now are at 15 to 13 for the Danes, and ViCi's money is very poor coming into this one. Looking at the buy from both teams, North could hardly ask for a better opportunity to close out the map. So this round started off fairly standard, and other players have fallen back and are grouping up towards mid, and the call from Cadian will be to smoke Arch and Library, very likely with the aim of wrapping onto that A-bomb site, which is a call that I really like in this situation considering their weaponry advantage. Unfortunately for North, as their smokes come over, ViCi is going to counter smoke long, and as we can see, Kiebi commits through the smoke on his own and will go down to the CT player. What happens next is somehow the CT stays alive, North slows down and thinks about what to do, and in the end North squares up to exec out short, but K's re-swings short, catches one, and Valde would have been really kicking himself here for not finding the trade kill. So again, this clip is similar to ones we've seen already. Why was Kiebi committing for a smoke on his own? Where is the trade potential? And why is somebody not shouting cancel when the counter smoke comes in? It's not like the clock was near low enough that they had to commit to wrapping onto the site in this situation. For the most part, I'm just going to talk over this final round of regulation, as I don't think North did masses wrong, and in the background you'll see North contact into brackets, knowing it was unlikely for ViCi to have an AWP, but unfortunately for them, ViCi was in perhaps the perfect setup, and certainly in this round it was much more ViCi winning the round than an awful decision from North to lose it. Let's reflect on the general themes of North's issues across these two maps. Now on the CT side, excluding individual mistakes, I think they played fairly well when fully brought up, at least at this level of competition, but for me their buy decisions and calling around weaker buys was more suspect. In contrast, North's terror sides in these games were not brilliant. Cadian's overall calls are beyond good enough to beat a team like ViCi, but it's more within the team play and especially spacing of players where things started to fall apart during these maps. Now for those that are fans of North, it's not all doom and gloom. Many of these mistakes will be obvious to the players, and certainly with Abe stood behind them, they'll likely be on top of making changes going into future events. Also, some of the mistakes in this series were really odd, and I question how much the pressure of major qualification played its part. So for those that wanted to see overtime, I've decided to leave it out, partly due to time and also because especially in those last two rounds of regulation, North really should have closed out the map and put the series to a third. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed that one, why don't you like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.